That's not a game. You've heard it. I know I've heard it. I've heard it said about Proteus and Dear Esther in video games. I've heard it said about Gone Home. In board games, I've heard it said, in some cases, by genuine luminaries of the form, like Blessed Fairy Munchkin of Sweetness and Kindness Mark Rosewater, about games like Candyland and Snakes and Ladders, two favourite whipping boys of the online community. This criticism is often levelled by the more pointedly grumpy in the gaming sphere, and while on the one hand it's kind of understood that the opinion is just an opinion, I'd like to take some time to point out that this isn't just wrong, it's also super annoying and kind of gross. First things first, "that's not a game" is a sentence that implies we have a usable definition of what is a game, which, usually speaking, means we turn to Google, which gives us something about sport, but more importantly gives us an activity that one engages in for amusement. A computer game. That's not helpful. I'm amused by watching comedies. That doesn't make the act of watching them a game. What if we reach to academia for a definition of what counts as a game? Now, I'm not going to give you the full rundown of Ludwig Wittgenstein to Bernard Suits to Ian Bogost because language is super complicated, but Suits is the guy whose usable definition I favour. He refers to playing games as the voluntary attempt to overcome unnecessary obstacles in the Grasshopper, Life, Games, and Utopia. For the most part, this means a lot of things become games. Candyland is a game. Balloon Fight is a game. Dear Esther is a game. And so, too, is the game you play when you're watching the telephone poles whiz by in the car and imagine a little dude running along the surface of the wires, jumping over the little nods on top. That was just me? Okay, anyway. This is a super broad definition, though, and some people might not like it, because this usage means that games like Proteus and Dear Esther get to share the term game with Galaxy Trucker and Call of Duty. Ideas that seem a little bit weird? Should it seem weird, though? Are they any less things you do for fun? Is melancholy not as good an emotion for a game to give you as horror or elation? This series is called Making Fun, and that's because I intend to make it about making games and things I've learned in the process of making games, both academically and pragmatically. I want to make it so you can feel you can make games, to try and break down some of the ways we think about making games and maybe, hopefully, score me some sort of rad consulting gig that gets me pots and pots of money. Failing that, encourages you to make something super cool that I can then check out and maybe find the game I never knew I would love. But part of what we need to do is to stop thinking of games we don't like or games that are simple as not games. We need to recognize that games come in a lot of different forms, some extremely simple and some extremely complex. Some have tons of components and some have none. Some are full of specific scenarios and handcrafted moments, and some are procedural messes that just throw lots of things at you and hope your own memory sorts them into the best possible combination of moments. When we say simple things or children's things aren't included, we are effectively saying that there is no value to making those things from the perspective of a game maker. We are dismissing the work of people who have made simple things. The defining experience of a game, then, is that it's something you choose to do. There's a whole wing of philosophy that gets involved about playing games for money, like sports, but the basics are still there. You choose to play. And that's the reason Candyland is still a game, even if you never make meaningful decisions. You choose to play Candyland. Now, what Candyland absolutely is a bad game and a boring game, and we can definitely do better. But we can call it that. A game we don't like. A bad game, a boring game, a game we can do better than. We don't need to pretend that there's an arbitrary threshold on what counts as a game. And if we do that, we can start to forgive ourselves for the things that we create failing to reach those thresholds.